I think we're running a few minutes behind, so I'm going to talk really fast. And most people say, where are you from? I say, I'm from the South, but not south of United States. I was born in Iran, southern part of Iran, 50 some odd years ago. So kind of puts the accent in perspective. Thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate your time. And I know some of you are anxious to get lunch because we're close to lunch. So I am going to break my presentation to two parts and keep on track. The first part is all the challenges. So that's the type you will actually nap. The second part is when you get involved and you ask questions and you're looking at some of the solutions. So I have joined Enabling Technologies about 2 months ago. After 35 years of career in higher education and local state government, I decided to join the Great Resignation and be part of this stat. So it actually works well. Now, many of you actually resonate with this because this month is Cyber Security Awareness Month, and we're going to leave here. We're going to promise ourselves to do so many good things, and then what happens? We forget. It's like cleaning the attic right before Christmas. Oh my, I'm really going to do it, but you just never say which Christmas. So this truly applies to some of the stuff that goes on in our business. Now, technology is changing. Everybody talks about cybersecurity. This is a big deal, blah, blah, blah. There are currently 714,000 cybersecurity jobs in the United States that are open. That's a crazy number. This is the stat as of this morning for CNBC. So it's like everybody now talks about it. But as you go through these things, what does it actually really mean? What are the things that are challenging? So I get to that part. But for the most part, is many of us that are in this business of doing cybersecurity, we do have the responsibility, but many times we lack the authority. And then we want to be people's friends. So you basically say, sure, don't worry about it. You know, you want to install that app on your machine? Sure. I had the vice president call me, says, I'm really having difficulty installing this jailbreak software. Can you help me? Swear, I don't make it up. Remember, you do not make this thing. You don't have to make it up. This just happens. So I said no. And then, so now the picture up there, that is actually, y'all, some of you probably know who that person is, correct? Who's that? That's Draco, who the term draconian is from. He basically came up with some serious laws. Yeah, that was many years ago. I'm sure by now most people just know the term, but they don't know where it came from. The other challenge many of us face in cybersecurity is support from the top. One of the vice presidents, I used to say, you know, we really need to deal with some of our policies and make some drastic measures. And her common quote to me was, please make it go away. Very common, please make it go away. So I always said, see no evil, hear no evil, and say no evil, correct? And when something happens, they come to you and say, what the hell happened? How come you didn't deal with it? It's very common practice in many of the organizations in terms of how we are supporting that. Furthermore, you know, IT fiefdoms are everywhere, regardless of whether you're in local state government, private sector. Departments decide to take IT into their own hands. Why? Because number one, they might not be happy with some of the stuff central IT is doing. Number two, evil strikes back. You don't want to deal with IT, central IT. So some of those issues are major concern. So combination of distributed IT organization, I call them decentralized as a better term, versus many times leadership really not recognizing the importance of cybersecurity is also, many of the cybersecurity is almost like buying insurance in a sense. What if something happens? And nobody wants to deal with the what if, especially when you're dealing with finance, because they want to look at what's the cost and why are we doing it. So sometimes it becomes a lot more challenging to establish those, the terms. So the other area is organizations that have had some success with IT is because they have built some grassroots. And the reason with grassroots is really you want people to be on your side in an IT field, or you want to have some kind of governance. We established a governance organization, and at some point we felt it was a rubber stamp. At some other points they were really active and asked good questions. But it gave us a lot more credibility. Granted, most of them didn't do their homework, but that was okay. At least we could say, hey, we're doing this. Is this a good idea, bad idea? So that entirely established a much better collective, collaborative culture. But the one other area is that organizations always want to talk about, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Honestly, the best thing to do is to pick a framework. Well, let's follow one specific guidelines. Granted, there are certain things we have to do because of compliance, like FERPA on campuses or HIPAA or some other stuff with a Nest, Nest 173, which is pretty big. But set up a framework. There are 25 different frameworks out there. Pick one, anyone, doesn't matter. Most places do not pick one. And then say, I'm going to stick to that, and I'm going to measure myself against those principles to see how successful I am. That actually goes a long way. Now, the other thing that's going on with IT business is things are changing as rapid fire. You guys getting kicked out of it. We actually, about 8 months ago, we volunteered to be the first institution in the state system to basically put our patches on a 2-month cycle. So you know what? That's our 60-day cycle. When we started looking into it, we didn't realize that there are 650 systems that some of them have not been patched for such a long time. So basically, the system administrators, we told them not to drive their car because they were chasing all the security officers. We told the security people, please don't go on the sidewalk because just be careful with those cars looking for you. So just be very careful. It became a major concern because the system administrators were just totally, utterly pissed. What the hell you mean I have to patch all these machines in 2 months? And the common line, which they were actually used to report to me, it's so resonating. I don't have time. Can I get back to it next week? So for many of you might not resonate with this. This is from Pawn Shop. I did have a sign on my door before leaving the institution that I said, this is a pawn shop. You just don't know what's going to come through the door. And being in IT, you know that. So I really resonate with Mr. Harrison when it comes to that. And the comment is extremely important from that perspective. Also, backup. We do our backup. Testing it is another factor. Many organizations don't test it. Now insurance companies require you to test it. So it's a major challenge. And we're going to request that what happens if your cloud backup gets destroyed? Do you have backup from your cloud product someplace else? I said, come again? No, you need to back up everything that's in the cloud someplace else too. So, okay, my God. So I'll be living in Florida, and we have all sort of hurricanes and other issues. You guys deal with fire, and I'm glad that you guys giving us a sample of it today. You just have to walk outside. It's so good. But for the most part, this type of challenges exist in terms of how you actually evaluate your backup. So many organizations just back them up until they need it, and then they go there. Oops, might not be there. Now, bring your own devices has been around. College campuses, since Compaq started their laptop, we had those on campus, correct? So it's nothing new to us. We're familiar with it. But the challenge you have, are we responsible for personal devices? Do we back up personal devices? What happens if they have corporate data on them? Or what happens if something happens to them? So a lot of it is that you really can't have a solution for everything, but you could establish a policy. And in our case, people actually used to go buy devices on their own, on their P-card, purchasing card. I had one vice president that was traveling, dropped the phone, decided to go to an Apple store, spend $1,200 on a new Apple phone. Says, can you guys connect it to my old number? So what? Where did that phone come from? Oh, I was traveling, the phone dropped, I couldn't wait, I had to get a new phone. Okay. Now, something so new device shows up, and you had these challenges. So there was a lot of those. The address is the policy. But the thing to that is one of the biggest challenges is the next slide. Look at this. 70 million devices are lost annually. Now, how many of them are actually reported? This number is a belligerent lie. Half the people don't even report things that are lost. So if they say 70 million, you guys know it's probably twice as much as the number, correct? Claim is only 7% of them are recovered. So now the lack of basically inventory management creates another challenge for us. So kind of, again, outlining some of the things that many of you know. What the good news is that you don't have to worry about it. I put it together in a slideshow for you. So you don't have to think. But looking at that is we had to do an inventory, and I remember because we were implementing Intune, and they said, how many devices you have? I said, probably 4,500. We got done counting, 8,300 devices. 8,300. Some of them were like Windows 7. So what is that box doing? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I call them field of broken dreams because the guy had a project on it that never got it done. Eventually was going to get to it. A lot of field of broken dream. So, what's that? Now, we want to fix the problem. Sometimes the resources are available, but we have a problem. It's the Great Resignation, correct? 714,000 I mentioned to you. This is actually a picture from Inc. magazine. Literally, this is a problem. Now, we have one more thing to add to this. as we're talking about, organizational culture and organizational appetite, a large number of folks who've been actually in the leadership role in IT have decided to join elsewhere, retire, or do other things. So there's another term that's being coined heavily. It's called great retirement. And of course, you also know the term that's actually being done is called incremental quitting. So people get disengaged over time and then they leave. That's another major concern that many organizations face. It's called incremental quitting. They just gradually disengage without anybody knowing, leadership not realizing, they're remote. So that is adding to the layer of complexity because institutional knowledge, organizational knowledge are also going away with it. It's like you remember the story about the Novell network many years ago that actually legitimately was in a closet that they put a wall in instead of the door and nobody could find the server? This is a true story. Yeah, you heard about that, correct? Here we go, exactly, exactly. So that actually adds challenge to the security. Then, one thing we decided to do, we got to do awareness, we got to do security. But at most, that is spotty, and at most is not consistent. I actually had an administrative assistant, somebody was taking the test for her. I said, what's going on? I said, I really don't understand these questions. I said, well, you need to learn. I really have so much on my plate. You realize this, I'm the only one here. What are you doing? Oh, I'm having her help me with the test. Seriously? But I said, okay, I see no evil, hear no evil, say no evil, just move on. But that is kind of becomes a challenge. And also, the problem with the training is that sometimes we either offer a lot of trainings and sometimes we don't offer enough. It's coming with that balance where people are going to be comfortable is extremely important. Next, most of us that are in IT business, we realize this all the time, we're fighting fires. Somebody comes up with another unfunded mandate, can you take care of this, can you do this? We never sit down and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to spend a day, I'm going to spend 2 days, I'm going to spend a week putting a plan together of where we need to be as an organization. And then some organizations overplan, they plan to death, which you don't want that either. So you want to come up with a really good balance. But I kind of came up with the idea, I saying, you know what, at some point we need to be a fire marshal and not a firefighter. So for my boss's 50th birthday, we all decided to show up dressed as a fireman. And we got him a fire marshal. I said, for God's sake, be a fire marshal, don't be a fireman, because he loved to get involved with all the little things. So we got him a fire marshal uniform. Luckily, being on campus and we were next to the fire department, I should have brought this picture and put it up there, but I didn't want to embarrass him. He's a good guy. But for the most part, I said, look, you need to take that role. So a lot of the security officers at the high level need to be looking at that concept of doing that. One area that's actually been extensively covered in the newspaper, and many of you already know that, actually did a presentation 2 days ago. I just wrote an article about it in CXO magazine, is the cost of insurance premium. What happened with the insurance premium? 3 things happened. Insurance companies basically had no underwriters in cybersecurity. So they wrote all these policies, then they ended up paying them, and then they realized that Holy Toledo is costing us so much money. But insurance companies, what do they do when they have to pay on a policy? They have a very good model. They increase everybody's premium. Congratulations. I mean, they basically wrote the book on Ponzi scheme. Think about it, you know? So what happened, the premiums are now out of control. This year alone, since January, it's gone up 37%. And one of the things that they're doing, they're reducing the coverage significantly. And on top of that, part of the challenge we have, which I will get to that, is many organizations now, this ransomware folks are getting so smart. With public sector, they request a copy of the contract until open government. They see how much coverage you have. Based on that, your next ransom is going to be that amount. Not a penny more, not a penny less. So now we as public sector employees, and many of you are here, you need to find a way to make sure nobody knows about your coverage. In fact, even in the private sector, don't discuss it. How much is your coverage? $53. Please do not share that number, even public, because if somebody blabs to somebody, gets to the bad actor, you're in trouble. So that's kind of one of the areas we'd have, looking at where cyber insurance is going. Now, the good news, we've got good guys helping us. Who are these guys? These are the security folks, correct? They need a lot of coffee. They're not hackers, correct? They don't trust anybody, and they're always right. Don't forget that part. Don't question their judgment. How dare? This is not appropriate. Do not. It's gospel, what they say. If you have those people in your organization, they're really on your side. Appreciate them. Enjoy them, you know? Laugh at their jokes, even though they're not funny. That's important to do that. So now we're moving to the recommendation. So how do you actually address this? First and foremost, you got to have communication. Security officers really need to be this idea of communicating on a regular basis. It really helps a lot. Not to just scold people, not to just tell them this, but say, hey, by the way, this is something you might want to look at. By the way, this is what we're hearing. Make sure you walk away from your computer, do the freaking Control Alt Delete. Do some of those things. And you know how difficult it is. You don't, also, as a security officer, don't constantly ask for money. Keep those when you need it, because if you continuously ask for money, I remember anytime the security officer showed up, he would show up a few times a year, my boss says, how much do you need? That's all. It was like become programmed to just basically, it was like, rings the bell. Okay, so you got the joke. So make sure that that's part of the case. Also, have the committee. We talked about building a committee. I get it. Me being from higher education, putting a committee together is like herding cats. Guessing, not an easy job, but it's equally important to go through that exercise as much as it's painful. I know many of you love to sit through a root canal without Novocaine than sitting through some of those meetings, but it's worth it because now you will build support from the organization. So make sure the stakeholders have an idea, because now it's not just your voice, it's everybody's voice that's being heard. Next, keep your inventory up to date, because you never know the next time your security officer will ask for an inventory of all the servers. And it happens to me on a regular basis, and my team would call me and says, they asked for the inventory again. I said, this is a Groundhog Day. Don't worry. Same inventory over and over again. Come ask for it. So just one thing. And not only just ask for those inventories, but in many cases, also some of the other systems that you had no idea that were running one-off app sitting in a corner, and you had no idea what it was. We had a directory service. Actually, it was a scheduling system that was being used in one of our campuses, in one of the colleges, and to make sure the students were unique, guess what? They were using social security number for the appointments. So what? It was an Access database. At least, it wasn't bad. It wasn't Excel. It was an Access database. What do you mean it's a database? It's very difficult to program. What do you mean it's not secure? Okay. So it kind of goes to that building that inventory. But at the same time, one of the things that you look at is do not have all these rules that could be an exemption. I actually shared this with Scott, my colleagues from E-Group this morning, enabling technologies. And we had a dean on campus. We had a policy on changing password. Kid you not. And the password, the security said every 2 months you have to change your password. That was before MFA, multi-factor authentication. This dean got up, got so pissed, he says, damn it, I'm not going to remember another password. It is my license plate on my Audi A4. I swear. We'll make it up. Black Audi A4. The whole campus knew her password. And the provost asked us to put her on exemption list. We did. What do you want me to do? She's retiring, leave her alone. Okay, fine. That was real. No, this is a legit story. Don't make it up. You don't need to make it up. So some other things you do, most of you already know about MFA. Honest to God, the low-hanging fruit. Now you need MFA on your switches, you need them on your servers, you need them on your routers. Put them everywhere. I'll say MFA everywhere. Just put it. You're not going to get lost. Just do that. How long do I have?
No, stay close to the microphone, please.
I will stay closer to the microphone. I shall stop joking as well. Okay, next. When you do MFA, time to live. How long do you want that MFA to be active? And that actually became a huge bone of contention for us. 20 minutes, 1 hour. You keep putting your password after a while, you're just going to get annoyed. So come up with a reasonable time. 4 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, whatever it is that you have, that's what your committee is for, to kind of build that concept. It really helps a lot, because now you have a buy-in. If you do every time, people are really going to get annoyed. So just kind of put that in there. Another thing that we have going for us, many of us, is when people leave, nobody tells us, their accounts are sitting there, access is sitting there. I used to have a term for it. I used to say accounts are checking into Roach Motel. They check in, they never check out. Last round of auditing, we got dinged on that pretty bad, because we had all this, they said, what are these accounts? Well, the person might be coming back. That, of course, doesn't fly well. Where these accounts are dormant. Oh, that didn't fly. Well, these accounts are tied to systems that might actually break if you take them away. I came up with all those excuses because one of our people just blabbed about all those, and I couldn't say anything. What are they? Well, they don't report them to us to terminate. Okay, now we're talking. So it was become a problem. And that's one area where on a regular basis cleaning up goes a long way. And yeah, you're right. Some systems will break because somebody developed a system and put their username and password in there. That's just common. It happens a lot. But if you don't start, and so my philosophy really was toward the end and say, you know what, I'm just going to kill it, and if somebody complains, then I deal with it. That seems to be the best approach. You have no choice. A couple of other things. Talked about low-hanging fruit. Many of you, for example, have Microsoft licenses, either F, A, or E, depending on what sector you're in. Honest, take advantage of those. They're there. The licensing, you're already paying for them. And many organizations have other tools on top of those. I know it's difficult because somebody's using the tool and it's almost become like a religion. People like it. We had one college that had Malwarebyte that was not willing to let it go. We had a company that actually one department was using Semantic that they didn't like to let it go. I said, look, all these licenses are free. So it took us a while. We had 3 different mail protection systems. We had FortiMail, we had Cisco solution, we had basically Checkpoint, and then eventually we have Microsoft DLP. So now I think we're down to 2, but we were able to look at those and say, okay, it's not going to cost anything. It's just one-time implementation cost. Let's do those and let's go through that. And so because really device DDM, which is desktop device management, and mobile device management are truly your biggest challenge. Because look, we do a good job of securing the network. We do a good job of securing the firewall. We do a good job of securing the servers. But these end node devices are always our biggest challenge. And the number is significantly higher than you think. Every time you think you have a number under control, add 10% on top of it. Because that's always the case. Now, a couple of other areas. Yes, you are going to have issues with filling all your positions. Everybody does. In South Florida, we offer people position. Half the time, they take it, then they come down there looking for a house. Oh, I can't live under a bridge here because it rains a lot. They don't take the job. So you're forced to hire people from remote or staff augmenting. We actually came up with this conclusion that augmenting staff was exceptionally valuable to us because you bring them on a time-limited engagement, have them help you, and then walk out. The only thing you always need to be cognizant of is to make sure that they're not just having you hold the bag. Because many people are concerned, if I bring somebody from outside, they work on my system, then they leave, I'm going to be holding the bag. I don't know what the hell they did. One of the things that I, for example, like, I'm not, kind of saying this because I work for the company, but when I used enabling, they actually did a very good job of giving me a complete knowledge transfer. So the team was happy about the fact that the company that I'm working for actually did a lot of basically hand-holding. So, and if you use, external entities or any entities, make sure that is part of your engagement, that they are going to give you a complete document of what they did, so you won't be holding the bag. Now, this concept is growing. I don't really like to call it virtual CISO. It's virtual information security officers. A lot of companies, healthcare, this is growing because they can't afford to hire somebody full-time. Now what they're doing is they're hiring these contract CISOs. It's exceptionally popular now. It's growing because sometimes some small organizations can't afford or do not need a full-time CISO. But because somebody to come in, check your policy, somebody to come in to check the healthcare of your organization, to check some of your practices, make sure your Microsoft is being implemented, is very valuable. So you don't have to break the bank and hire somebody full-time with Benny and everything else, and now you have some resource at your disposal that could be exceptionally helpful to get you over the hump. Or at some point, if you're training your own staff to make one of them CISO or move them up, that could actually be extremely valuable. A couple of other recommendations. We always patch the systems, we already know that, but apps are always a challenge. We had a major concern with apps. Our DevOps teams, we had to get them to give us an inventory, which was equally difficult. So we had to actually help them write the inventory. We did something called English-to-English translation because we couldn't read their handwriting. So we actually identified some of the apps and said, are they all up to date? We had a couple of systems that were so out of support, it's not even funny. And it was from that evil empire called Oracle. So we actually had to go through and identify those to put a part of the security posture. So now, you have to patch them or take it offline. So that was one of the areas where we felt was extremely useful. Another area is actually, if you are developing a distributed environment and the campus or the organization likes the idea of IT being decentralized, let's not call it decentralized, call it distributed. As long as you have your Azure Active Directory and some of those things in a central place with some backup, and then you could delegate responsibilities to various IT staff. I know sometimes you don't like him, but put the personalities aside. You just find a way to work with them because it's helpful, because now they're part of the solution. So they won't set up their own Active Directory under somebody's desk or another mail system under somebody's desk. We had a faculty member that had a mail server. We went to take it off. It was chained to his desk. Sir, legitimately had gone chain and locked it. Now take it. It's okay. That didn't work. So kind of bring him on board will entirely help. Policies. A lot of us do a lot of policy development. Please, please make sure your policy always has 3 questions. Why the hell are we doing it? Let me use the word hell, I apologize. What is it going to do? And how the hell are we going to implement it? I actually shared this, talking about laws. In Florida, there is a law. You cannot have a duck on your head when you cross the state line. And no pun intended. I mean, you guys have a duck as your mascot, correct? It's against the law in Florida. Who knew? How many people actually putting a duck on their head to cross the line to Georgia? Some sort of law. You can actually look it up. I'm not making it up. So what is the value of that law? Nothing. What is it going to do for anybody? Nothing. Does it apply to cars? Does it apply to train? I don't know. So you're going to put, it kind of a silly thing. So many times, some policies are developed without them having any value. So just make sure that they're practical. So when I gave you the permit, basically the policies are very broad, just some statement, look, we need to have password protection. And then how you're going to define it, why we need to have password protection, how are we implementing, how are we enforcing it. It's really simple. Those 3 simple things goes a long, long way. Just simplify your life. Because I know sometimes we don't trust people who develop policy. They're just trying to make our life harder. Next, this came from Oregon Department of Risk Management. This is everyday news in Florida. It's a hurricane. So this, I don't have to go far. I just have to watch the news and this shows up. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is actually engage in a risk assessment. I know it's like this is the time. Once a year, do it. Also get an outside entity to help you. As much as you do it internally, sometimes you might be missing something. So getting an external entity to validate some of the stuff you're doing is always better. Remember, we always have this line, nobody's a prophet unless they came from another land, correct? Think about that. Every single prophet traveled, going from Moses all the way to Muhammad. Every single one of them, if you believe in those, they all traveled, correct? Then they became important. So remember, you bring somebody, they flew all the way from Florida. They must be really good, really? So this helps you more so than helps the, make your case. Because at the end of the day, they're going to support you, and they're going to tell you things that nobody else is going to tell you, and you could decide how you want to interpret it. Extremely important to do that. Not only do it, but also actually do that. We do that every year. We had to because of hurricanes. Every June, it was just, we had to go through this frenzy of figuring out what's going to happen if the campus is gone. Now, other recommendation, when you go through the training program, please, please, please don't make it hard. Make it simple. The one to the right is actually dated. Now everybody puts the password under the keyboard. They don't put it on the monitor anymore. It's too obvious. We learned that much. The second one, I think is so funny. It's basically, when people get called the security people and say, God damn it, why the hell did you do this? Why did you open up that attachment? It happens on campus on a regular basis. So let's not be that harsh. And also, let's not make it so much that people are actually say this is okay. So somewhere in between when you do that, but it has to be meaningful, has to bring value to the table. Why are we doing this? Now, when we talk about insurance, what are the things you do to lower your premium? Because that's really part of another recommendation, is there's a questionnaire that every insurance company has. Get hold of the questionnaires and compare them. Don't just get one from Traveler or Lloyd of London or Corp or Chubb or any of those. There are probably 25 insurance companies. Get those basically questionnaires, go through them to see how much of them actually make sense for you to do and how much is it going to cost for you to complete it. For example, do you secure all your EndNote devices? Yes, no. Well, the answer is depends, correct? What is EndNote devices? So you can say yes, but you might be lying because there are a lot of them you're not. You say no, your insurance goes through the roof. Look at the questions. Based on that, determine what you're going to do. And for those of you who are looking to buy insurance, I'll give you 2 other recommendations. 1, hire an insurance broker. These are the companies that are getting paid by insurance companies to help you find the best policy. And you say, well, they're on the side of the insurance companies. No, they're not. because you're hiring them and you don't have to take their word for it. There are about 6 or 7 of those large brokers out there. Next, hire a technology company to make sure that when the way you fill out the questionnaire is being validated. So like, for example, one of the things, I've been with the company 2 months, literally I've been engaged in 6 of those questionnaire completion process right now. And one of them last week, they said, don't bother going with this company because it was so harsh. The way they're asking, the questions they were asking is like, basically, do you, put everybody through a lie detector every day when they come to the office and stuff like, it was like some ridiculous crap. It just was impossible. I said, we can't deal with this insurance company. Find another one. So definitely it's important to do, basically, I draw a square. One corner is you, insurance company, insurance broker, your third-party technology company, to have them work together in tandem to come up with the best solution. Because the rates are continuing, it's not going to go down. You know that. It's just because of the fact that the number of ransomware is continuously increasing, which is the reality we have to live with. And every year, our budget stays the same or shrink, and now these premiums keep going up. Now, I also mentioned to you, don't share the coverage amount. $53, that was the number, remember. Don't forget. Next, every single one of us here that are working in IT, honestly, we always promise to have some time set aside to do research and development, to look at different things. Now, with the hybrid work schedule or remote, it's even more difficult to build the teams. Everybody's like a gig worker, It's like, what do? I drive Uber, either I Lyft, and I do IT work for a remote company. Same thing, it's just basically they have no connection with anything. So one of the ways we're actually addressing this is this notion of having 4 hours, some people have 10 hours, depending on what the appetite is in the organization, to have them work on certain things that you assign them. Because also now the way we measure our performance as remote workers is entirely different. There's a continuous paradigm shift in how we're actually going to measure our workers. In the old days, everybody would come to the office every morning, they had to laugh at my jokes, and you talk to them when they were getting coffee or something else. Today, that's not the case. They're remote, they could be in different part of the country, different time zone. So for me, it was a complete adjustment because during COVID, I went to the office every day. I had to. Leadership had to come in every day. Me and my boss were there. We literally throwing football from one end of the hall to the other. It was beautiful. He was at the other end. I was at this end. Literally, it was like 2 of us in the entire office for hours, for days. Now, we have remote workers, hybrid workers. How do we measure them? I came to enabling. I'm entirely remote. So everything is on me, and how are they measuring me is extremely important. So having some time to develop is good. And especially also you want to build a culture, particularly in security and trust. This is why if you have any question, you could ask John Burgundy from, y'all remember the show? Dream Team Assemble. So get the teams together to actually work on that. Last but not least, as much as information security is sexy and information security is wonderful and everything else, this is what happens to you in information security. That's your first year, and that's your 3rd year. So yeah, they say, why you still have your hair? I said, I swear it's genetic, but I don't take anything personal, because if I had to worry about every single day that happened every day, I probably would be pulling all of it out. But anyways, this is sort of my high-level rundown of 10 issues and 10 potential solutions, breaking it into human side and technology side, and I'm opening it up to question and answer. Yes?
So I've worked for an MSP that helped a lot of organizations. I've also worked for county government. The county government is great. Everybody has the right cultural idea of that cybersecurity is a responsibility, especially every IT personnel, down to the desktop guys. Well, in companies that have been hit by ransomware time and time again, even after the ransomware incident, you go in there and they're just like, yeah, no, we log in with our domain admin account and open up Outlook. What's wrong with that? How do you fix the cybersecurity culture in these organizations, or how do you address that culture of, security is kind of a product we buy rather than a thing we do?
That's an excellent point. The number one thing that always people want to be associated with the winners. You know that. We love the football team because they win. If they lose, what football team? You all know that. So in Lake City, Florida, they got hit with the ransomware, and they asked for $600,000. Well, put that aside that everybody basically in the city had 3 resumes, the first that they had to send out because most of them were getting fired. But for the most part, what happened, they became the example of everybody was saying things that you shouldn't be doing. People start calling the city, asking the employees, are you doing differently? So literally, they put those employees on spot, and they brought a lot of value to the table to the other organization. So the leadership turned their negative situations. Okay, now we went through this, we got hit, some people got let go. Let's use our example to train others of things that they should do better. So in other words, help them write publication, help them write newsletter, become evangelists. So they created this concept. The city is actually very small. They have the IT department with like 10 people. You could call and they absolutely gladly spend time with you telling you things you shouldn't be doing. So they took the culture that was so negative and was stigmatized to something that they could do to assist other people to make sure those things does not happen to them. So people are asking questions, so how do you secure this? So literally now, because I know the name, Lake City. Most people don't know what Lake City is. It's like a small city in northern Florida. Literally 600,000, it was practically probably half the city budget. It's a small town. Anyway, so that actually one way to do it is to make those people evangelicals to your culture, to your ideas. And tell them, look, you guys have done, let's write publication for Security Magazine. Let's go ahead present what we have learned. So turn that energy, and then I think the laissez-faire concept would start becoming a lot more positive and a lot more things, because they could get hit again. And when they hear other stories, they say, oh my God, we better do this, we better fix it. Because you learn as much from presenting as you actually get from people. Hopefully I answer your question.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? That's great. For those of you who had a nap, welcome back. It's good to have you. I'm going to be around the rest of the day. I'm enabling desk upstairs if you guys want to have any questions or any concerns. It's been such a pleasure coming here. It was totally worth the 6-hour flight to Seattle and then a flight to to Portland, and then poor Scott had to pick me up and bring me here, but it was really great being part of this presentation and part of your journey and improving your security posture. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Since you can't pronounce my last name, call me Mehran, and please do not call me doctor. I don't cure anybody. I just got a PhD. Guys, have a wonderful lunch. Enjoy the rest of your day, and pleasure being with you.